I'm Renee. This is Renee, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about my powerful year. Um, if you saw a video that I did back in January about my annual planning process, in that video, I referred to the fact that I choose a word or a theme for my year. And this year, I chose the word powerful. And and the reason that that word was chosen back in December, I was out and about in the village and I navigated a really um, like just an interaction in French. And it wasn't one that I saw coming. And so I wasn't prepared for it. And yet I navigated it. I was understood and I walked away feeling amazing and just feeling like I could have conquered the world in that moment. And as I was walking back home, I thought to myself, what if all areas of my life could feel like that? And I'm like, because this feels really powerful, like that word powerful dropped in. And I'm just had that idea of what if I chose that word as my word for 2026 and I make that my theme for the year. So I decided to do that. And I feel like it is an opportunity for me to exercise this new muscle that I feel like I've built, that I built in 2025 for this thing that Francis taught me. This process of living as an expat and being constantly confronted with difficult situations that are scary and they feel uncomfortable, and your first reaction is to try to avoid it, and yet you can't avoid them. And so, but as I've learned to take them on and step forward into the situation despite the fear, so practice courage and step forward anyway, what I've learned is that when I walk through that fear and I get to the other side of it, the next time I'm approaching that same situation, there's a whole lot less fear. And over time, it repeats itself, and you gain more and more and more confidence, and there's less and less and less fear. And I really feel like this is the gift of moving to France to becoming an expat that I never saw coming. And it's really been amazing. So I want to talk more about my powerful year. So choosing the word powerful, it it felt in the moment, it felt like a declaration to the universe that I wanted to approach things differently. I wanted to become um, a more powerful individual. And what do I mean when I talk about power? Let's talk about what power isn't first. Um, Power is not about being strong all the time. It is not about being afraid sometimes. It's not about controlling outcomes. It's not about dominating a situation. Um, it mm, it's not about pretending that you're not afraid. I've always heard that phrase, like, fake it till you make it. That's not power. That's not power. Um, It's not about pretending that you're not being impacted by what's happening in the world. I know that I'm impacted by it. Um, and I have feelings about it when I watch those things, and I have to watch how much I watch those things. Um, yeah, so it's not about that. Um, if anything, power, it feels quiet. It feels very internal. It feels like this presence, that you embody. It's an embodied presence. And I'm going to talk more about that. Okay, let's talk about what power is. Actually, I want to frame it as, what power is starting to mean to me from this practice. So, power feels like staying steady. It feels like not handing my emotional state, my emotional well being over to the latest headline or the latest drama or anything outside of me. I'm not handing my emotional calm over to anyone. I'm retaining sovereignty over myself. That feels powerful. It feels like noticing when I start to shrink away, when I start to want to avoid a situation. Um, yes, that does not feel very powerful. So it's a noticing and then choosing differently, choosing to gently show up in that situation. Um, yeah, being present to that situation, even when I might want to shrink away from it. Um, it feels like responding rather than reacting. uh, it feels like holding my standards, holding my sovereignty, and staking a claim for those things to exist in this world and be represented by me for me. Um, yeah, it's I've realized that power shows up in very small moments, very ordinary situations, not dramatic ones. Um, it shows up as of a knowing of complete and solid presence in any given moment. That's what presence, that's what power has begun to be for me. So let's talk about the hard fact of this because I'm presented every day with situations where it would be easy to shrink away, to let fear take over. And I recently had a situation. I had a new client, and and we were negotiating a contract for some work, and we were far apart on the value of that work, the billable amount for that work. And in the past, I've always dreaded this. I just wanted people to understand the value of my work and see it as valuable as I see it. And and recall I've always come at these situations from a place of so much powerlessness. And this was my year of power, right? I was going to show up differently in this situation. And for me, this meant stopping when I felt the fear come in, and stopping when I was preparing for the conversations, and really saying, how can I feel powerful in this situation? What would it feel like to remain powerful through this situation? And um, and how can I make sure that this conversation is about my value and the value that I'm bringing to the arrangement? Any arrangement is a relationship, of course, and shamanically, we would refer to this as creating Aini. And Aini is this reciprocity, it's this idea of reciprocity. And so you want a fair exchange of value. I wanted to to provide for my client as much value as I could based on what they were looking for and their needs, and I wanted likewise to be fairly compensated for that same value. And I didn't want it to be a conversation about dollars and cents. I really wanted the conversation to be grounded in the value that was being provided. And I will say, for the first time in my consulting career, which has expanded several decades now, I walked through this entire negotiation from a place of feeling very at peace, very grounded, and very much in my power. Um, and ultimately, as a result, obtained the result that I wanted. And the client was happy in the end, and I was happy as well. And really felt like yeah, I, it, it was the first time that I can say a financial negotiation like that. I was able to walk through the entire thing from a place of being in my power. That was huge. A great practice for my year of living in my power, for sure. Now, one of the other things that I am really noticing as I'm paying attention to fear and living in my power is that not all fear is the same. And what I've really begun to notice is not all fear is actually mine. I've really begun to notice when a kind of a thought will come up that is introducing a fear. And if I stop for a moment and question it, it's like, wait a minute, is that really something I'm afraid of? I've also noticed that sometimes fears come up and it feels more like a collective thought, like this fear belongs to the entire world, not just to me. And that feels big. It's a collective fear. And then some fears, they do belong to me, and they are showing up perhaps because I need to walk through them to grow beyond that fear. So, I'm going to talk about this idea of the different types of fear in a coming video in a little bit more depth. We'll dive into that and what I'm learning about navigating the different types of fears. So, more to come on that. But for now, just remember that not all that fear that's showing up is actually yours. Why am I sharing this now? I think we are all going through a lot right now, a lot of change, a lot of transition. There is a lot of things to be fearful of. I think a lot of us feel pressure. I know I do. I know all of my friends do. Pressure, both external and internal. Something doesn't quite feel right in the world at the moment. The structures that we've known, the things that we've known to just be and rely on don't feel solid anymore. Um, and I don't think the answer in that is to become louder. I really think the answer might be to become more sovereign, to become more sure of what's going on inside of you, to become more steady, more intentional, more powerful. So, what if you chose to have a powerful year? Where are you giving your emotional state, your sovereignty away to someone else, to the collective of everything? Where are you reacting instead of choosing? What would it feel like to live today powerfully, or this week, or the year? What would that feel like? I'm practicing this all year, not perfectly, intentionally, very intentionally. If that resonates with you, I invite you to stay here, listen along, and practice with me. And we'll see where we end up at the end of the year. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe and share with others if you think that anyone else in your world would also benefit from this message. And I will see you in the next one. A biento.